Hi, I'm Lori Duncan and welcome to the third episode of Blog Talk. So we are going to be talking about a blog post that I wrote that sort of didn't jive very well with a lot of people. There's a couple of interesting comments about the deadlift. So when I'm talking about the deadlift, because I work in the fitness world, I'm talking about the one where you have your feet, maybe shoulder hip width apart, you have your weight in front of you, and then you're going down and lifting up. So here's my beef with the deadlift. One is I see more disc herniations, hamstring strains, and low back strains because of poor form on the deadlift, because most people have no idea that the core and the glute are the driver of a deadlift. Yes, you will feel your hamstrings eccentrically. You will. They attach at the pelvis, they are going to lengthen, right? They attach up here and they attach down here. So they are going to lengthen. But the problem is that when people do deadlift and they only think of it as a hamstring exercise, this is what sets it up for injury. Or if people think it's a lumbar compression, right? And they're doing that all the time, that is an injury, especially a disc herniation waiting to happen. So when I wrote this blog post, I was just trying to educate and show people that if you look at anatomy, the pelvis is what's moving, right? Forward and back in a deadlift. Well, look at all the muscles that attach at the pelvis, and then the hamstring just attaches here. It's just an eccentric control of hip. It doesn't move the pelvis, it controls the pelvis, so of course you're going to get hamstring activation. But the main role of our hamstring is to flex the knee. So I find it interesting when people want to train their hamstrings that they always want to do a deadlift instead of doing it what it's in its primary role, which is to flex the knee. Don't get me wrong, if you can do a deadlift really well and you understand that it is driven from your glutes and your core and you will get an effect into your hamstrings because of the eccentric load on that, then fantastic. But I guarantee you that 90% of the world thinks that a deadlift is a back or a hamstring exercise, and I can say this because of people coming into the clinic, and when I tell them that the glute's the driver and the stabilizer of it, then they are like, oh my gosh, no one has ever told me that before, and it completely changes it. So that's all that this blog post was about, and I hope you're listening and thinking, okay, you're right, I am not thinking about my glutes and my core, and I need to. You have to, or else you are going to end up with an injury, I guarantee it. So let's review this for a second. When you're doing a deadlift, if you're gonna do it, everyone knows it's not my favorite thing in the world because I think there's a million other things you can do. But you want to make sure you're in a good stance, right? You have to engage your core. You need to get your shoulder blades down the back. Let's say you have weights at the side or a bar in front, doesn't matter. Then from here, you're going to go down. Now at this point, you will mostly feel hamstring and core. You have to feel your core. As you come up, you need to squeeze your glutes to pull yourself up. And what happens is most people squeeze from here. It's too low. You have to squeeze from here. That is the only thing that can actually drive your pelvis up. So again, I'm just a therapist who's trying to create or give education about prevention. I don't want you guys hurting yourself. The one that I actually prefer instead of a double deadlift is a single. So that when you're doing that, you're down, right? You've got this here, and then you've got to pull up with that glute. Well, the difference between a single and a double is that it really engages that glute. You're gonna fall and do all these funny little things if you're not in your glute. So it gives you better feedback about that. All right, so go read the blog post, do you deadlift, and I hope now it makes sense that yes, you're going to feel your hamstrings, but people, make sure your brain is oriented that that glute and core are your stabilizing factor, and if those bad boys aren't on, you're gonna have an injury. All right, thanks for watching. Have a great one.